probably tell you. Cool. Great. Fab. Welcome. Welcome to Rest Club or Gentle Movement and Rest Club. Gosh, we've done these quite a few times now. I know some of you have already been before, or some of you have been to like rest and release class at the studio. I guess it's similar kind of thoughts to that, just a 60-minute place where you can come and be with your practice, but at home. So then you can just slide into bed on your Monday evening. It always kind of goes the same kind of way in that it is up to you how much or how little you do of this class. If you get halfway through and you're like, actually, I just want to curl up and make a nest here and have a nap, you're welcome to do that, or climb into your bed or do whatever you need. If you haven't popped the music on, you might pop the music on in the background. If you haven't got the playlist, just give me a nudge and I will repost it into the thing. It just works a lot better when I don't play music and it doesn't interfere with the sound. So I thought we'd start in a seat. So let yourself find any kind of things that you want to sit on here. Maybe you're already in a seat, but take a moment just to kind of wriggle into that seat here. And then, as I kind of always do when I start a class at the moment, we might take 3 rolls around with the shoulders here. So lifting the shoulders up towards the ears, those circles around. Fab. And then at some point, let your shoulders land so they're away from the ears. And if you need to wriggle at any point, you can wriggle, but the idea is to start to come towards this kind of sense of stillness. To take that pause in your evening and to tune into the space that you're in this evening. To tune into the present moment in your practice. And you can do this to the external space, to the sounds, to the light. Or you can also tune in inwards as well. Or maybe you kind of pendulate through those 2 places. See if you can notice your breath here. And then to help us land in the space, I'm going to guide us through that super simple breath in through nose, breath out through the mouth. So if you'd like to join, see if you can find a little bit more length in the spine. And then here together, can we take an inhale through the nose and a long, slow exhale out through the mouth. Repeating that at your own pace. So your inhale when it's ready to arrive. And your exhale when it's ready to release back out as well. Breath in. Maybe a bit of a sigh on the exhale. Breathing in. And sighing out. Awesome. Now you're welcome to keep repeating that here, or that slight change of closing the mouth and starting to breathe fully through your nose. Look to find your own rhythm or pace of the breath here. And whilst you take these breaths, I'm just going to introduce the kind of few words that I was thinking about when I was deciding what to teach this evening. So there's always that kind of thread of movement towards stillness, that kind of moving towards a quieter place. But something about that kind of bright sunshine today made me think about some notes from a book I read a while back. And the notes I made are about the qualities of the human heart. And I'm just going to read out this list. qualities of the human heart: patience, generosity, helpfulness, honesty, passion, the ability to feel empathy or to put yourself in other people's shoes, the ability to forgive, compassion, understanding, a listening, and a thoughtfulness. Qualities of the heart. And maybe there was a word in there that stuck out to you, maybe one of those words, or your own word, your own thoughts about the quality of your heart. And if there was a word that kind of stood out to you, maybe you bring that word here into mind. You could even use that as an intention for your practice. Speaking kindly to yourself with that word. If the word was patience, can you offer as much patience to yourself in your practice as you would to someone else? If the word was generosity, can you offer as much generosity in your practice to yourself as you would to someone else? If the word was compassion, can you offer yourself as much compassion in your practice as you would to someone else? Finding your word and repeating it a couple of times in your mind here. Even though it was beautifully sunny today, for our movement to come back in here, we're going to find a little bit of heat. But rather than a dynamic movement, you might bring your palms together here and then rub the palms together so you start to build some friction with the hands here. Because we're thinking a little bit up onto the heart. Just noticing that sense of warmth towards yourself. Noticing the feeling of your palm touching your torso. And then keeping the slow, steady breaths going here, that inhale and exhale, that sense of steadiness with breath. We'll start to bring a few more movements in here. So from this space, see if you can start to open the arms out here into almost this kind of cactus shape. You're welcome to let it be just a little bit more loose in terms of shape. And then can we bring the palms back together at the heart? And we'll take this movement with the breath. So the inhale, let the hands open out wide. You can spread the fingers as much as you like. The exhale, let the hands come back towards your torso and maybe you tuck the chin down slightly as well. This time as you lift the chin, maybe you even look up towards the sky. And then the exhale, bringing the palms back down. Let's take that one more time. So this inhale, this opening out. And on the exhale, bringing the palms back together to rest on your torso. Let the chin tuck down here. Let your elbows soften and let yourself just kind of lean ever so gently forward here. If you want it to be more of a fold, you're really welcome to take that. Otherwise, stay fairly lifted with the torso and perhaps think more about kind of lengthening around the back of the neck here. Know that as we move through our practice today, you are welcome to find your own options along the way to move how you need to move today and to honor your body. From here, we might take the hands this time up towards the sky with a little bit more energy and stretchiness in them. You could either have the fingertips reach towards the sky, or you could interlace your fingers here and then push the palms towards the sky instead. Option to add in a little lift of the head to look towards the sky as well. And then really gently, can we release the right hand down towards the ground here? Let the left hand reach up and over towards the opposite side. And maybe take a few circles with that top hand here. Rotations through the wrist. If you want to walk your right hand, the hand that's on the ground, further away, you could take it further away from you or come down towards your forearm. And then can we gently sway this over to the opposite side? Let the other hand land. This time the right palm reaches up and over. And then again, these circles around through the top wrist. You might take some in one direction, some in the other direction as well. And then again, coming back through to center, both hands reaching towards the sky, but this time let yourself fold forwards as much as you want to. So listening into your body, but you might land your palms down towards the ground. Maybe you let the chin drop down here, the head towards the ground, but knowing that it does not matter how low you go here. You can find a moment of stillness, or you could gently sway from side to side, moving that around through the lower back. Great. From here, we're going to bring ourselves round onto the hands and onto the knees. You're welcome to get there in your own way. I had a cushion underneath me, so I'm just going to remove that cushion out of the way. And because it is Rest Club and we are in our own home, we've got that time here to kind of set up for extra coziness. So if, like me, you want to place a blanket or something a bit kind of supportive underneath your knees, feel free to grab something extra for underneath your knees here. Finding your tabletop, and then can we find some circles here that your shoulders lean around the hands, circling in whichever direction you just naturally went to. So in a moment, we will do the other side. And you can circle big or you can circle small. You could play around with kind of swooping the chest down towards the ground here. Maybe you lean almost kind of back towards a child's pose. It doesn't have to be exact. But at some point, let the circles release or return and find the opposite direction, moving around those circles in the other way as well. You are really welcome to continue with the circles or finding the center, and this time finding your cat-cow. So the inhale, belly drops down, looking forwards, tailbone turns towards the sky. On the exhale, let the shoulders lift, let the chin and the tailbone tuck. And then again, moving through this at your own pace. The inhale, finding your cow pose to look forward. The exhale, rolling into your cat pose. We're going to take another 5 or so of these here. If you want to wriggle around with the hips as well, the movement, and just move how you need to move today. Maybe there's even that sense of rocking forwards and backwards. And then from here, can you bring the hands back or bring the shoulders even back over the hands, taking your right palm slightly closer towards the center of your mat and lifting your left hand up towards the sky here. We'll take our thread the needle, left hand threads underneath your right armpit. You could come down to your forearm or let your left shoulder come down towards the ground. The left ear come down towards the ground as well. Some of you might like to take your right hand forward so it reaches towards the top of your mat.
Or you might like to sweep your right hand behind your lower back to find your opposite hip.
Either way, can you think about drawing the hips back towards the heels, a gentle kind of sinking towards the back of the mat, and taking a couple of those slow, steady breaths in. You'll thread the needle. Eventually bringing your right palm back towards you, pushing into the right palm to lift the left hand all the way back up towards the sky. And then we'll look to do the same on the other side here. So this time the right hand peels up towards the sky, and then the right hand threads underneath your left armpit, finding your right forearm or right shoulder. Maybe your right ear drops towards the ground as well. Left hand could go forwards. It could reach behind your lower back. Again, personal kind of preference between those choices. It can also, like me, just stay by your head instead. Slow, steady breath here as well. And then bringing your left hand back near your face, pushing into the left palm to bring the right hand all the way back to the sky. And then can we meet back in our tabletop? Taking just 3 rounds of cat-cow this time. So the inhale, belly drops down to look forwards. The exhale, rounding through the back body to find your cat. Inhaling to find your cow pose, looking forwards. And then as you come to cat, can you hold this shape here? Think about starting to sink the hips back towards the heels. And you're welcome to stay really high in your child's pose today. You might come down to your forearms, or you could reach your hands forward and sink a little bit further down towards the ground here. And of course, if child's pose just is not very comfortable for your knees, you can be much higher. You can stay taking a wriggle around in your cow. Take a couple of breaths back in that child's pose. Breathing in and out there. Know that you're always welcome to be in your child's pose or any other resting position whenever you need to in your practice. If you'd like to join back with some movement here, we're going to lift through our tabletop. We're not going to spend much time at the top of the mat. We're going to start to slowly make our way to the top of the mat. So the toes tuck here. The knees lift. So we find a downward facing dog. And in that downward facing dog, let yourself just explore a little bit of gentle movement here. So that bend of one knee, a bend of the opposite knee. Maybe there's a sway of the hips left, a sway of the hips right. At the end of the day, sometimes that kind of stretchy feeling through the shoulders or the legs here is just what you need. And then from our downward facing dog, we're going to walk our feet towards the top of the mat. So towards the hands. And when you find your forward fold, give yourself a bit of space today. Take the feet a bit wider here. You're welcome to take hold of opposite elbow, or you could have your hands dangle towards the ground. Maybe find that bend in the knees and a gentle sway around here. Head might want to take a little bit of a shake. Yes, no, feeling. And then can you release the hands towards the ground, slowly rolling all the way up to standing here. Fab, I'm just about into the screen. Take a moment to roll the shoulders back and notice the sensation of your feet on the ground. Maybe they're in cozy socks. Maybe you've got bare feet today. Either way, see if you can find this kind of rocking movement forwards and backwards. It doesn't have to be a big movement, or you can kind of challenge yourself and just see how far you can rock forwards and backwards. And then the same thing, but side to side. So it's gentle kind of sway side to side. And we can put those two together and take a kind of circle around here. Maybe you take that circle in the opposite direction. And then see if you can find a place that's somewhere kind of right in the center of that, somewhere right in the center of your feet, where you're standing roughly evenly across both feet here. We'll take ourselves through 3 rounds of our standing sun salutations. These can be really big and stretchy or soft and gentle, up to you. On the inhale, let's reach the hands up towards the sky. And on the exhale, can you bend the knees gently, folding forwards and down. On the inhale, lifting halfway. On the exhale, folding down. On the inhale, rising all the way back towards this. So the exhale folds you forwards and down. The inhale lifts halfway, long spine. The exhale folds you down. Inhale to gently rise up towards the sky. One more time. The exhale folds you forwards and down. The inhale lifts you halfway. The exhale folds you down. And again, can you roll, rise all the way up? Hands find the sky. Then bringing your hands back to your heart. And you could keep your palms together, or you can do what we did at the beginning and rest your hands on your heart here. Maybe noticing that sense of touch, whether it's your palms or maybe whether it's the thumb resting on your heart here. Noticing your breath. Listen. And then leaning a little bit more into sensation here. I'm going to take 2 kind of movements standing, maybe slightly less yoga, a little bit more kind of qigong in terms of style. You might want to take your feet a bit wider, the knees a bit softer. Having said that, one of my yoga teachers definitely does this, so who knows. Let your hands kind of drop alongside the body. And then we're going to think about spiraling from the center of the body. And today, maybe the center of the body is our spine. So spiraling out from this kind of central axis. Let your shoulders sway side to side. And as you sway side to side here, let the hands just kind of gently bounce off the body. If you feel dizzy at all, you can stay with the head forwards, and it can be the torso doing the moving. If it doesn't feel dizzy, you can always kind of look all the way over the shoulder so that spiral continues up through the spine here. Just notice that kind of sensation of moving. Where do you feel this most in your body? Is it somewhere along the spine? Is it your knees, your hips, your shoulders, somewhere else? And then with each kind of sway, get a little bit slower until we come back to almost kind of stillness here. And then maybe there is stillness. And again, can you tune into the sensation? And to me, the sensation feels like either that kind of settling of like a snow globe when you shake it, or one of those fancy glittery ones, and everything's just kind of swirling around, coming back to stillness. Or if you've ever like swum in the sea when there's that bioluminescence, that kind of swirly feeling around. And then the second movement that we can do that's really, really similar in style of thinking about kind of moving and then stillness. This time, much more of a bend in the knees. And then it's a gentle shaking, a gentle like hopping or bouncing is probably the best word. Maybe you kind of like have had one of those big bouncy balls at some point. You can imagine you're kind of bouncing on it here. And seeing if that can almost kind of ripple up the spine here. It might feel a little bit silly, and that is totally fine. You can let the hands shake with it, maybe the shoulders shake with it. It's kind of bouncy, bouncy feeling. Maybe it gets a little quicker with your bounces. Always close your eyes down here. And then the bounces get slower. And then again, starting to come back to stillness, tuning into the sensations you can feel this time. Just take a few breaths there. We're going to do that one more time, but choose which one you preferred. I'm going to throw a third option in there though. The third option is just to kind of shake the hands, shake the knees. So you can choose. You could do that swaying, you could do a bouncing, or you could do some kind of shaking with all the body here. You could also do some kind of funky combination of all of those here. All of this kind of moving, and maybe it is a bit more vigorous. But then can you start to slow the movement down again? Go back to this idea of stillness. Is it really stillness? Can you still almost kind of feel the air around you moving? Or the breath inside you moving? Blood moving around your body? Maybe you're still swaying. We're going to make our way back down towards the ground here. So the inhale might take the hands all the way back up towards the sky again. Let the exhale fold you forwards and down. On the inhale, lifting halfway. And then as you bring the hands down, let the knees bend, walking yourself back to your downward facing dog. And again, just take a moment to be in your downward facing dog. It can be really still, or it could be wriggly downward facing dog again here. Breathing in and breathing out. When you're ready, let your knees come all the way down towards the ground. You could either go to your child's pose, or for a moment you could sit. It could be kneeling if this is like a no thank you for your knees. Let your legs go out in front, or find your child's pose here. And bringing back into mind your word for your heart. If you had a word, maybe it was all of those words. And I am going to take a moment just to read through them again here. So wherever you are, coming towards stillness for a moment. Qualities of the human heart: patience, generosity, helpfulness, honesty, presence, the ability to forgive, the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, empathy, listening, compassion, understanding, and thoughtfulness. You take a couple of those slower, steadier breaths here, offering yourself all those qualities of the heart, offering yourself all those qualities of the heart. We're going to start to set up for our first restorative posture here. This first restorative posture can sometimes be a bit controversial. Not everybody likes it. So I'm going to set it up, but then I'm going to give you an alternative as well if you don't want to take it. It is on the front of the body, and it is placing a little bit of pressure, like lower part of the abdomen, almost just above your hip crease. So I've got a bolster that I can use to lie on to place that underneath here. But if you don't have a bolster, you could grab something like a cushion, or you could roll up a blanket here so you've got like a kind of sausage shaped thing. And the idea is to lay yourself down over this rolled up sausage, a blanket, your cushion, or if you do have a bolster, over your bolster, so that the bolster goes lower part of the abdomen, and then your torso comes down. So it ends up that your tailbone is sticking a little bit up towards the sky. I tend to stack the palms and turn the chin to one side, or you could make a little kind of shelf with your hands and rest your head in it. Or again, you could use a second cushion. If you've just had dinner, it might not be so comfortable on the lower part of your abdomen. It also just might not be comfortable in general. So if that isn't comfortable here, please do move the bolster out of the way, slide the cushion or whatever it is out of the way. Let yourself come down onto the front of the body without. And see if you can still find a space for the head to rest here. And then whichever two of those versions you are in, see if you can really let yourself kind of sink down here. Sometimes easier said than done. It will take a little bit of kind of wriggling if you are on a prop here until you find that point. It's almost like giving yourself, if you ever had like acupressure, slightly more kind of push into that space. What we are looking to do here is just let the muscles around the hip flexors soften slightly. I'm going to bring myself up just so the voice is a little bit easier to hear. We're going to be here for roughly 2 more minutes. And of course, you can move whenever you need to move. So if you can think about sending your awareness down to the space, lower abdomen, across the front of the hip crease. Whether or not you're on your bolster or on your prop, still sending that space there. Breathing in and out here. I have had students say, actually, this is fantastic for me. This is where I want to stay. And they've stayed there for the rest of the class. So if that becomes you today, of course, let yourself stay there for longer. Otherwise, we'll take another 5 slow, steady breaths here. Wherever you are, let your chest lift slightly. Let your hands come to the ground. And can you really gently bring yourself back to your tabletop? Take a gentle sway of your hips. Find stillness. We're going to offer puppy pose here as well. So if you want a blanket underneath your knees, take a blanket underneath your knees. And the idea is we're going to use a cushion. If you have a cushion, if you have a bolster, use your bolster. All that rolled up blanket, if you had your rolled up blanket here. Bringing your hips over your knees. You can also rest your arms on blocks, but giving yourself a bit more height in this puppy pose and your head something to rest on. So it might mean a little bit of organization. So if you don't have a bolster, you could again use blocks and rest your hands or head even on your hands. You could use a cushion. Let your forearms rest there. So what we're looking to find here is a softer variation of our puppy pose. If you know, actually, I want to sink this back to child's pose, let your hips just draw backwards and your arms might even stay on your prop. And you could be there instead. Or you can stay in that puppy pose even for a few more breaths. And when you're ready, really, really gently lifting the torso back up. We're going to make our way around onto the back of the body from here. There is no particularly fancy way of doing this today. You might simply shuffle your knees to one side and bring yourself down onto your seat. We're going to give ourselves a little kind of prop area today behind our body. So behind the torso, we're going to lie down over some props. So again, lots of options here. If you have a bolster, you might take your bolster out behind you. So the idea is that we would be moving the torso down onto the bolster. Think heart opener, butterfly pose. If you don't have a bolster, again, this can be a cushion. It could be a block under a cushion or like a stack of cushions here. But something that means your chest, your heart, and your head are a bit higher than your hips. So take a moment to create whatever that is. And I'm actually going to use the bolster and the pillow because I want to be quite high in this. If you have a blanket, you could have it under you, or you could wrap that blanket over you here. And this is the time where we start to kind of get real kind of nesty as we move towards Shavasana. So from here, let yourself come down onto your props. So the back of your body comes down. Now you can decide where your knees want to be, where your legs want to be even. You might have the legs stretched out long here. You could have the knees to the sky. Or you can take that reclined butterfly variation where the soles of your feet go together. I'm going to demo from the reclined butterfly version, but of course, let yourself find which one that you want to take. And then for a moment, just kind of wriggle the shoulders into that here. Some of you might really enjoy taking your hands overhead and almost kind of wrapping your hands around your head here. Imagine like lying on a sun lounger in that glorious sun today. How you might lie on a sun lounger by the beach so that the elbows kind of drop out to the side. You could also have your hands on your torso, or you could take the hands out wide here. So find whichever of those places you want to land in. We're going to be here for roughly 4 minutes this time, so a bit longer. It doesn't mean you have to stay still. See if you can invite the face to soften here. Notice the flow of your breath. Did have your arms overhead here. Perhaps let them come down to that space where we were kind of lying on the front of the body. If you have pockets, you could tuck them into your pockets. You could also kind of take the hands into the waistband here so they've got something there to support them. If your legs want to stretch out long, you can let the legs stretch out long here. And then bring your awareness to the breath again. Breathing here. If you are super comfortable where you are, feel free to stay. Otherwise, we might switch our props around slightly in a moment for the coziest Shavasana you could possibly take. So if you are wanting to move, use your hands to support, bringing you upright off your prop. And rather than moving straight away, Just find that moment of kind of upright space, almost like a rebounding back up. And then maybe thinking about some of those words: care, compassion, generosity. Can you set your nest of Shavasana up in a way that's going to be the most comfortable for you? And I'm going to add a few kind of pointers in there, but this really is personal preference. I've practiced with all of you many times, so hopefully some of those things are kind of familiar. I know that you all have like a pretty regular yoga practice. You might take something behind the back of the knees. You might take something around the back of the head. If you want a blanket like I have around the back of your pelvis, you could have a blanket around the back of your pelvis. You can drag the duvet from your bed, cover yourself in your duvet. But the qualities that we might want to look for here in our rest is warmth. Are you warm? Can you place your body where the props support it? So give yourself opportunity to rest the body here. A place where for a moment there's just less to do. If being on the back of your body isn't that place, you can always be in a different position here. And then before we kind of fully sink into Shavasana, although if you're already there, great, go with it. You might just give yourself a bit of a hug of the knees in here, a squeeze of the knees. You can rock and roll on your lower back if you want to rock and roll on your lower back. Or you can find stillness and just kind of be in the stillness for a moment. If you want to take your legs to the sky, let your legs go to the sky for a moment. Maybe there's some gentle movement there as well. Add in any other wriggles that you need. And then let yourself kind of sink into Shavasana. I'm going to come back to my seat, but just so I can kind of see and read. Notice where your hands want to be. Is it connected into somewhere? Or is it that kind of spread out and rest outwards here? Bringing your awareness towards the very center of your forehead. From the center of your forehead, let your awareness kind of drop around the edges of your head towards the temples, the eyebrows, maybe inviting a softness there. Around the eyes themselves. Maybe the eyes close, or maybe there's a gentle focus. Bringing your awareness around the cheekbones and your cheeks, your jaw. The jaw might open ever so slightly. The neck, shoulders, the front of your chest and to your heart. Let your awareness rest in your heart. I'm going to leave us here for a bit of time, and then I'll bring us back towards each other. Perhaps bringing your awareness back towards your heart again. If your hands are alongside your body, maybe you bring them towards the chest, whether it's one, whether it's both, maybe it's two, that space around the heart. Noticing the rhythm of your breath. Noticing your body, yourself, your practice. And towards the end of Rest Club, it's even more, goes without saying, but maybe it doesn't. You are welcome to just stay where you are, especially if you want to like stay really, really low and slide into bed after. If you know that you do want to come to seat to close your practice, then take all the time to gently move, to gently wriggle. And maybe in the next 10 or so rounds of breath, let yourself come through to a seat. Or if you want to stay exactly where you are, let yourself stay there. Get a bit more kind of cozy underneath your blanket. Whether you're staying low or whether you're finding your seat, again, perhaps let the hands rest on the torso here, whether it's one or whether it's both, it's up to you. I'm going to invite us to turn one of those words into a mantra to maybe take with you off your mat. And a mantra can be a few words, it could be a single word. It might be that something has already just pinged into your brain and you're like, I've got it already. But if not, maybe there was one of those words: patience, generosity, compassion, understanding, empathy. I offer myself patience. I offer patience outwards. You might replace the word patience with whichever word you want that to be today. I'll just run through a few of them. I offer myself compassion, and I offer compassion outwards. I offer myself honesty, and I offer honesty outwards. I offer myself forgiveness, and I offer forgiveness outwards. I offer myself generosity, and I offer generosity outwards. Repeating whichever one you want to in your mind. To close practice today, I'm going to guide us through a few of those deeper breaths with a sigh or an exhale out. If you would like to join, just find a breath in here together and an exhale or a sigh. A breath in and a breath out. Breath in and a breath out. Your breath find its natural rhythm. You could leave your hands where they are or bring the palms together here in honor of your practice and the people that you've practiced with today. Taking a gentle bow or nod. We'll close our practice here today. I'm going to send you a really big thank you for joining. I'm just going to pop over to the screen and turn the record button off. You are really, really welcome to say hi if you want to say hi. You can also